Alright, in this one I want to talk about what is a female gaze physique. And so to talk about that, we have here this study from China. In this study there were no conflicts of interest. They were rated by people from multiple countries, including China and the UK. So it's not just cultural, it's actually biological preferences. The study is pretty recent. It was actually from September of last year, so a couple of months ago. And here's an article that talked about the study. So in the study, they concluded that the ideal BMI for men is between 23 and 27, which is true if you look at the study. So as you can see, to maximize attractiveness for men, the ideal BMI was between 23 to 27. And the ideal body fat percentage in the study was 12 to 15%. The ideal body fat percentage was pretty much the same approximately across multiple countries. The ideal shoulder to waist ratio was always around 1.6, which is what we see from previous data. And yeah, the conclusion was looking lean and healthy and strong at the same time is ideal when it comes to attractiveness from the opposite gender. So what does it look like? What do the results from this study actually look like in terms of visual output? So basically, one example is Kinobody. He has a BMI between 25, which is exactly the mid-range of the study. It's in the middle of the ideal range. And so Kinobody has, around 25 BMI. He is lean. In the study, they said between 12 to 15% body fat. And here he probably does have around that. As you can see, it looks good in bad lighting, like at the beach. And it also looks good in good lighting. So overhead lighting, like at the bathroom or at the gym. And yeah, it looks strong, but it also looks lean and athletic. And that's around ideal. That's ideal in the studies. That's ideal in this recent study. And that's ideal in the previous data that I've seen. Now, of course, Kinobody is an example that he has a good face, but that's a confounding variable that they usually filter out by cropping the face, or there are multiple other strategies, but usually that doesn't take into account. So don't worry, the halo effect of the face is not going to impact this type of literature. They know how to deal with it. Here are more images of how it looks like. And yeah, this is our own ideal. If you were wondering what 25 BMI is, another example is Brad Pitt from Troy. Now, I know a lot of people give the example of Brad Pitt from Fight Club. The problem with that physique is that it's not a healthy one. He was 5 to 6% body fat in that movie, which is not healthy. You should be above 10%. The ideal range for health is 12 to 15% body fat. And the ideal range for aesthetics for most women is also that same range. It's 12 to 15% body fat. So it does seem to align with the idea that health and looks are pretty connected, which they are in a lot of ways. And when it comes to physique, that's definitely the case. So this is around 25 BMI, 25 to 26, which is at the middle of the ideal range for aesthetics in the study. Here is what it looks like in motion. And it looks really aesthetic, of course. And most people, they look at this and they think it's pretty jacked. If you're chronically online, if you live on the internet, if you're used to people that abuse steroids showing up on your feed all the time, you're probably going to look at this and think that he is skinny or not jacked enough. But for normies, for the vast majority of people, this is insanely jacked, even in terms of size. And yeah, this is 25 to 26 BMI. So this is what the study says. It's around the same range when it comes to body fat and also when it comes to BMI. Another example, which is not as realistic, is David Lade. The reason I say it's not as realistic is because his genetics are insane. He has very wide clavicles. He has really good insertions. So if you try to copy his look, you're probably going to be disappointed. And some of you may think that it's unreasonable because you only can achieve this physique with steroids. I disagree. Here's how he looks like in bad lighting. He doesn't look that impressive when you remove the editing, the overhead lighting, the pump. I mean, it's still very impressive. Like, you show this picture to a normal person and they're going to think that he is insanely jacked and insanely athletic. But you show this to a chronically online person, they're going to think this is skinny. But of course, the opinions of people that are chronically online don't matter anyway. So again, this is a good example. David Lade actually does fall into that category. He has around 25 to 26 BMI, if I'm not mistaken. And the natty potential when it comes to BMI is around 28 to 29 for most people, within that body fat range that we were talking about. So even David Lade is well within the natural limit. It's just that he is really good at manipulating lighting and angles and pump to look way more jacked than he actually is. But in reality, this is not achievable. So is Brad Pitt's physique in Troy, and so is Kinobody. So you don't need steroids to achieve it. Now, will steroids fast track your progress? Yes, but I don't think it's worth the added complexity to just reach that physique a few years faster. The people that reach amazing physiques on steroids are usually the ones that would have achieved a great physique natural anyway, because those are the people that are willing to track their macros, track their calories, track their workouts. So even if you take longer, you reach a good looking physique naturally. Let's say you take 5 years longer. I don't think that matters in this context, because the alternative is being a walking pharmacy, having some health issues. And yeah, I don't think it's worth it for the vast majority of people to take steroids. I know some people have the do whatever it takes to ascend mentality, which I personally don't share, because I think health is the most important thing. There are certain lines that I'm not willing to cross. For example, with 5-AR blockers, the risk to reward ratio is insane. Basically, 100% of men get benefits and only 2% of men get downsides. That's not the same risk to reward ratio that steroids have. But anyways, long story short, this is around the ideal physique, according to the most recent data, which is a study that was published a few months ago, which is around 25 BMI and around 12 to 15% body fat. This is within the same range as Brad Pitt from Troy, and it's within the same range as Kinobody, both of which are naturally achievable. And like I mentioned, this was tested across multiple countries when it comes to preferences, and the results were similar. It's probably a biological drive to seek strength and health in men when it comes to women's preferences. So it's not about being as jacked as possible. It's about looking strong and healthy at the same time.